version of my journal. I'm Steffanie Rivers. Welcome to the conversation. You might be watching on several platforms. I am multicasting, and I want to thank my subscribers. If you are one of those subscribers, thank you for your support. And if you're new to the conversation, I know you're going to like something, ask you to share it. So, like and share and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first to know. So, if you are a Black business owner in America, it's important to know your craft and it's important to build your brand so that you stand out in a sea of other businesses. It's also important to build alliances and to not limit yourself to the opportunities just inside the United States, especially since the internet has created a global economy. We are just a click away from connecting with people throughout the world. So, places where you might have only considered to be vacation destinations could be the ideal place for your internationals. Now, just a few days ago, I returned from a business trip to Dakar, Senegal, and I was there to seek out contract opportunities for my company, TCB Drones. The use of drones is a part of the fastest growing industry in the world, and that would be the technology sector. I was there as part of a delegation led by the National Black Chamber of Commerce, and Charles DeBow is president, and he is my guest today. Let's welcome President DeBow to the conversation. Welcome.
Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you for having me. What a pleasure and an honor.
Now, I am okay. There you go. I was trying to make sure we were both on. Thanks for taking time out. And so I know that the chamber has a lot of your organization leads a lot of international trips such as this to connect Black business owners with contract opportunities abroad. Now, why was Senegal on your radar?
It's a good question. And the answer is it was really a process that's evolved maybe over 10 or 20 years. We've been in various um, relationships, meetings, trips, activities, and things with Africa, the continent particularly, and this was our first venture into Francophone Africa. Francophone are those countries which were colonized by the French, and they're commonly characteristic of speaking French in those countries. And we have started with kind of like the usual typical places. And part of that was who outreached to us in terms of their governments or businesses activities and things are there. So traditionally, you'll find most people, particularly Americans, have been to South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, and then it spreads out a little bit more, Ethiopia and some others. And if you notice of the news of late, there's been much more emergence of Africa as a continent as a whole, of the new leadership that they're getting. And a lot of that is indicative of the um, children of that were able to go to college or go to school or be raised in another country. A lot of them were raised in America. And in that, the economic models that we theorized in the United States are now being implemented there. So Senegal have reached out to us. We've had delegations from Senegal come to our various activities and meetings, and we've been talking about it for a while. But then when we had our annual conference in Atlanta in August, we had a high level delegation from the Ministry of Investment that was there representing their president, and they issued a personal invitation to our members, our constituents, to come and kind of see for ourselves what was going on. So that really was kind of like the thing that pushed us over the hump. We'd been considering it, but that got us to actually take the leap.
So it's funny you should mention that, because in a previous column that I did, I mentioned that we dined at Pierre Goudiabe's, the architect's home, and his daughter went to college in the United States, and so that's right. A lot of next generation African family members have been able to go to college outside of Africa. And then that leads to their parents and them building those alliances with the diaspora outside of Africa. So that was very uh, important. Now, I wanted to your trips, the delegations that you lead. A lot of them are with larger groups of people, and so our group was much smaller. I'm going to just show a picture of us and them. And here's a group where we were visiting Goree Island. And so that is at the top right. That's Judge Ron Gregg. He's out of Staten Island. He's the general counsel for the National Black Chamber of Commerce. And that's you, President DeBow. That's me, proprietor of TCB Drones. The person next to me is the head curator at Goree Island. And then seated is Darlene Evans. She is the owner of a training company out of Atlanta. And then that's Mama Faye. She is the owner of a skincare and jewelry line in West Hampton, New York. And so that was our small delegation. Now, do you think that it was that we got a lot done because we were smaller? Because I was told before I went that don't expect, to walk away with an agreement, because it's going to take years. And we walked away with an agreement to do business. So why do you think we had the success that we had?
That's a very good question, and it is something that some people never learn. The reason this happened was, first of all, you're very right. The premise of the trip was lower expectations. It's kind of under promise, over deliver. And the fact that they had been to meet us at a great forum where we had over 1,300 businesses, and they had excellent presentations and there was interaction, their confidence was high. Ours, on the other hand, was very qualified. We're kind of like, yeah, sounds good. We done heard it all before and we don't know. And they're like, well, please come, please come, please come. And I said, well, I did not feel comfortable going out with what is characterized, or what's labeled as, a trade mission. Trade missions imply something completely different. So we call this a fact-finding mission, meaning we're just going to see what's up. We're going to solidify facts. And because of all these, God has something to do with it. The stars being in alignment, all these things coming together at the right time. But impartially of it is because of you, because of your presence, because you're a business owner as well as a representative of of the diaspora, of a constituent. You are an entrepreneur. You're there to see what opportunities and what makes sense. So a lot of it had to do with, they really want to work with African Americans. They really want to match up through the diaspora in a way that we call it a hug instead of a handshake. This isn't just a formal, how do you do, what do you got, how much, and what, and they're looking at us By default, they look at everybody coming in as an investor. And I have to kind of filter that to say investors are one thing, business owners are a different. They're invest to make their business happen or to develop it, to capitalize it. So yeah, you could call us investors, but don't look at it as somebody just with a checkbook coming in. And for so many years, Americans in particularly, and and I'll talk about the ethnicity or the government aspect of it, where we're bringing a checkbook. American foreign policy is historically all about our checkbook. What are we? And if you take this check, we're going to try and tell you how to do what to do. This is completely different. We're not espousing American foreign policy or any government's foreign policy, and we're not even really there to have any particular opinion about religion. And there is significant under under the surface type of unrest politically as old powers are trying to hold on as the younger generation is starting to go. But the key thing that's happening is what was once considered a third world market osmosized and evolved into an emerging market. And when you look at things like broadband and wireless technology and communications, it allowed them to exponentially leap forward to become much more competitive with major economies around the world because they don't have to go in and do like wired or fiber optics and all that kind of stuff to start connecting things. So private equities come into the market. And I will say particularly, I was not quite prepared for what we saw. I mean, I was thinking something a bit more, less developed. So when we were coming through, first of all, the airport, you can kind of see that. But then I had no bearing because the airport was, I think, 75 kilometers from the city. But most African capitals are very congested. Everything is kind of magnetized or consolidated into a small area. And I've been looking at how in the world are they going to do urban planning and figure out roads and all that. Well, they went totally outside the box and just said, we're creating a whole new city. And that's what a lot of these places are going. So when we came through, and that gave us the foundation to understand the economics of what's going on. So when we came down and got to the area where we were kind of close to the ocean shore and saw that development and the modern architecture and the facilities and going there and experiencing the hotels and I've been going to Africa probably since the year 2000, and it's evolved a lot in like the water and ice cubes and things like that being more commensurate with American standards or what our bodies are used to, and all these kinds of things. So I can go on and on and on, but we had a great experience because there were two motivated sides coming together, and we were able to kind of like fast track right to like we've been knowing each other. So many of the people that we met were either living in America, going back and forth, and then having these other countries and other places they go as satellite or ancillary, but their primary comfort zone was with an American disposition. So that combined with the fact that, oh, these are real businesses. Yes, we have capacity. Yes, we have experience. Yes, we have a track record and we have the capability, and we're here seriously looking at what you got. We're not necessarily coming here with a checkbook, maybe in comparison like the Chinese or the Saudi Arabians or any of these kind of people and saying, walk around with our hands on our hips saying, like we're going to buy a car or jewelry or something, show us what you got and whatever. No, we're looking at what has legs, what has longevity, and the other thing that was really good about our part, we're very concerned about job creation, about local content, adding value, and the economic impact we can have together on not only that society or that community, but on our own as well. Part of the, we got to digress just a little bit. Part of the reason we're so motivated is because our markets and our opportunities are shrinking here in America. So, I know I'm preaching to the choir on that one.
And you know what? Yeah, you said so many things, especially when countries come in, they look they're not really, their primary goal is not to invest in the country and to build its citizens and the infrastructure. They're there to take what they can get and take it back somewhere else. Versus I think that with us, at least, from what I understood, the officials, they want to know it going forward. They want to partner with companies, business people who are willing to invest, whether that's train and develop their citizens there, help to build that, what they have there, and not just come in and see what you can take, like you said, shopping for a car and take it home, and that's the end of the transaction. But so a lot of people, when they look at Africa or think of Africa or their experience with Africa, is that it's not the best business experience. I'm just looking, in general, like, the email scams and all of these things. So when they talk about doing business in Africa, they are apprehensive. So, why do you think tell me why it's important to build an alliance with the chamber, and so that they have the support needed and they go to the right place when they want to do business abroad?
Excellent, excellent question. Because I know, and particularly with your spirit, you're like, you ain't feeling that you got to wait for somebody, or why I need to go with a committee or a group. I got somebody here, know somebody, we're gonna go over here, we're gonna check it out. Well, I call that the school of hard knocks. When you are a small business and you're going in, you are almost on the serving plate. You're on the menu. It's like, we're gonna eat this person up because we know they can't do this and can't do that. But well, let's see what they got. So we have members that have spent millions over a period of time trying to get their project going, trying to get their development going. But the thing is, they're there as an individual, as a solo. When we going as a tribe. We're going as a crew, and we hunting together, killing together, and eating together. We're not playing. In addition to that, we're Black. We are Afro descendant, right, wrong, good, indifferent, or whatever your ancestry is. And even in some cases, they ain't got nothing to do with Blackness. It has everything to do with economics. So we're embracing that. But what happens is, we go and we say, we're not the U.S. government. And we just some Black folks trying to make something happen. And we care about you and where you live and how you eat and what life is and how people treat you. And they say, oh, really? Okay, come on in. Let's go to my house and have dinner. Let's see what's really up and how we can do it. And then that's when we come back from a trip like that. And guess who's on the phone? We got the State Department. We got, I've had CIA, FBI, Prosper Africa, International Trade Administration, the Senate Small Business Committee, all them wanting to know, what do you know? What can you tell us that we don't see from our angle, and how, and the difference? And that's where you get this thing that's referred to as civil society cooperating with the public sector. And so even though the government always feels like they got all the answers and they know this, and they would never admit that they don't have the people necessarily, because that's not their job. There is government to government for the most part. And so things are progressing, things are getting along. Now, the difference is our leverage, because they're asking me or the National Black Chamber of Commerce or the organization to do other things. And some of it has to do with influencing, even though we're sensitive about that. And so, for example, let's just kind of be real for a moment. You're there and you're talking about, really on the initial approach was how drones can be applied in their society, in their business, in their commercial use, or how we can use it to create jobs. And they're like, yeah, that's cool, that's great, we might be able to create 1,000 jobs. Then they turn around to me and say, yeah, but can we build a steel mill? Can we start producing iron ore? Can we do anything with our rare earth minerals? We got gold, we got diamonds, we got lithium, we got all these different things that are valued around the world, but we're being exploited. Can we do something about that? And because of the leverage in that regard, it's kind of like, when somebody needs something from you, it's a lot easier to sit at a table and talk about what is the mutual benefit for everybody on all these things. So we may not be able to come in and write $1 billion check, but I beg to differ that we're going to be able to give them something that's priceless, that money can't buy. And that is the future and sovereignty of their people from an economic standpoint.
So let me see. I'm trying to share a video, but I was going to share this video of you when we were there, just when we went and we thought we were going to see the president of Senegal, but we
Which
ended up.
time? Which time? I mean, we weren't sure. And but I tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised when we go back that we do. However, they're coming up on an election. And that was part of the reason why we were rushed to go now, because these outgoing administrative leadership needed some, we call it receipts. They need to show something. There's something that happened, because some of them want to be reelected or go into a higher office or something like that. And so they wanted us to go there. A lot of the other organizations and government entities in the U.S. are waiting till after. Oh, here we go. Oh no, this is kind of silly. But
And
go
and
ahead.
you know what? It's only a few seconds, so I just
Well,
wanted to
it's
show
okay,
that.
but I have no idea how it came off, nor how in the world did they choose me out of an audience. So I'm gonna let you set it up, because you were a third party independent observer.
Well, I think they said, "Do we have any guests here or something?" And of course, everyone knew that we were guests, so they called us up. I'm trying to get to the. Let me
So
just.
let me go. That says the I believe that says the assembly of it really it was a reception, a meeting for you had to play it again. It was a reception meeting to introduce the new website of the ITC, the information technology sector, and the minister. So these guys in these white hats you're seeing the back of, those are
Uh-huh.
all these ministers that were sitting there coming to see one of their brethren's new advancements.
And yeah, now I had this as a part of a video that I was unable to show. So I just wanted to show that part. But yes, they were unveiling a new website. And then, as a matter of fact, the previous event, and you mentioned that they were coming back and forth to the United States. So, what was the event in August where everyone was convening in Atlanta? And that was kind of like the pretext to us going to uh Senegal.
In August 23rd through the 26th, the National Alliance for Black Business convened its essentially 123rd annual Black Business Conference. And like you go, 123rd, yeah, this is the a group, organization, an entity that was originally founded by Booker T. Washington over 123 years ago. The National Black Chamber of Commerce with the National Business League co-founded the National Alliance for Black Business. And our alliance came about because we're both founded on the principles and teaching of Booker T. Washington's relationship and observations about what makes strong Black communities. And strong Black communities, the backbone of them has everything to do with commerce. Are we doing business with each other? Black Wall Street, the whole thing in Oklahoma that is starting to come up more and more and more is the testimonials, the proof of what happens when we're doing business with each other and you start getting strong communities. It got too strong. So strong it was offending people that wasn't hurting them. They just didn't want to see somebody else, particularly Black folks that were just not too far removed from slavery, being under total control, being out of control. We got our own money. We got our own banks. We got everything. We don't need y'all. That was when people couldn't deal with it. So that has a lot to do with what the beginnings were and what we convened in Atlanta. We're bringing it back together. So in that you have all these Black organizations were originally conceived and founded by Booker T. Washington. So the National Medical Association, the National Bar Association, the dentists, the Black nurses, the accountants, the realtors, everybody, and we're all coming together under this alliance and saying, we're not having this anymore. We can talk to each other. We can work with each other. We can see what we may be able to solve without having to go to somebody, the government or whomever, and complain and say, well, you didn't create enough jobs for us, or why are we at the bottom? Even when this minority, this big thing, and then you got to also put the backdrop on there about, of all things, these are signs of the trail that we're on now. Why? Out of nowhere, will they just go and just reverse this whole thing on abortion? And then right behind that comes affirmative action goes out the window. And then right as a trickle effect of that, all this, we've been putting emphasis on diversity, equity, inclusion. A trail of resignations comes from all these people that post George Floyd, post pandemic, all that went to say, well, we're empathetic, we're sympathetic, we're embracing diversity and minority support and all that. Yes, we see that Black communities are suffering. We're going to do something about it. But it didn't take long for them to reverse and throw that all out the window. And the other thing that we noted was that ain't nobody pushing back. These same people that wanted to put it in there are quiet, not saying a word while this thing just, as we watch it float down the river away. So when the Senegal, but we didn't just have Senegal there. We had over 20 or 30 different countries represented there. That when they saw it, and they went with us to Tuskegee, where we toured Tuskegee University. We went by the original home of Booker T. Washington. We saw the gravesite of George Washington Carver, and all this historical things started bringing it back. Then part of our alliance is with the World Conference of Mayors, and there's 2,500 Black mayors that represent a lot of rural America or small towns that are being left out of the equation, except for the fact that New York, Chicago, Detroit, Atlanta, Los Angeles all have Black mayors. They all got Black mayors. And so, when we start to bring in and take in accountability, who are we? What do we have to work with? What's really going on in our society? We too have to look in the mirror and hold ourselves accountable the same way we're talking about these Africans, or the same way we're talking about them in Afro-Latin America. Two of my dear friends, the two people that I work with, are women that were vice presidents of their country. And that is Epsie Campbell from Costa Rica, who's now working with the United Nations. And then we have Francia Marquez, who's in the current vice president in Colombia. And so it is a changing time. And if you put underneath that in the back of your mind, and we hear these catchphrases, but we may not really resonate with it, but the minority majority, you're going to be hearing about that, because all these minorities, and then there's some logic, some science somewhere to why what's going on with the border is going on. There's something going on with it, and it has a lot to do with trying to disrupt some things that were headed in a certain direction. I'm very optimistic about the outlook for uh, the diaspora, the Afro diaspora. It's it shouldn't be frightening to anybody if all these black people all over the world start working together just kind of to support ourselves in theory. But what happens is economic empowerment. That's what's happening. That's the default. And one of the other groups that was with us in Atlanta came from New Delhi, India. And, everybody like, India? What? How? Well, I asked them myself, how'd you find us? What made you want to, come all the way and come meet around with these black folks? They told me that since 1952 or 53, they've been following Martin Luther King because Martin Luther King came to India. And they have a group, a sect of people that are darker skinned in India. They said, we're the black people of India. We too have been suffering from disparity and different things and not being able. We start doing business with ourselves. And it's a billion of us. It's like, oh, okay. They said, we got 25 million small businesses and they all want to do business with you. And we'll try. And their small businesses are like tech firms, and they're not just farmers and arts and crafts people. They're sophisticated, and their market is so big. A little business can make a lot of inroads. So anyway, I can go on and on. You asked a particular question. I'm sorry if I got off the question a little bit, but the question about why and how we're convening people, we're sharing best practices. We're also wide open to what you got. Here's what we got. Let's see what makes sense and get out the way and let people such as yourselves directly interact. But we're trying to be a little bit organized and forethought so we just don't pull up with a bus load or a plane load of people and say, have at it. One person takes off running. I'm going to the beach. Another person says, well, I want to go on safari. Another person says, well, I'm interested in hotels. Or I want to see, well, I don't feel like doing anything today. No, this was strictly business. And we were there as their guest. So can we go ahead and share? So the minute we arrived, and we all kind of arrived on different flights at different times and got there the best way we could. It's kind of like meet y'all over yonder. I see you, be there by 2 o'clock on Tuesday. And everybody had their own way and sure enough got there. But when you get there and get off the plane, there's somebody with a sign with your name on it, greeting us and taking us to a presidential vehicle. The president had a fleet of Audi A6s. They were brand new, sparkling clean, polished, and all that kind of stuff. The guy's in a suit. They even sent an escort or somebody that spoke English. Most everybody spoke English, but to what degree or professional, the language and all that. So they greeted us right there from the minute we stepped off the plane and were with us the whole time. And we even had that first day we were leaving the hotel, every two people had a car. So there were like 5 or 6 of us, and we had 3 cars. And so we had our own little motorcade. But yet we're pulling out of the hotel, and here goes the president, and his motorcade goes by. And all the roads are blocked off the same way they do it here in Washington. And our crew, our drivers, they just follow right in behind it. So we had never been in we're talking about the gridlock and how congested it is down in the city and whatever. It's crazy, and it can take you a long time to go from point A to point B during that rush hour traffic. It's like New York City or something, bumper to bumper and not as organized. So anyway, we follow right in behind the presidential motorcade. So that was a thrill and something we got to see and be a part of. And so it was very positive. They treated us very well. I think everywhere we went, we were treated and dignified. They fed us. They made sure that we had I would dare to argue it was close to a 5-star hotel. I know one thing. I know the beach was beautiful. The swimming pool was incredible. The food was very good. Talk about the food. Oh my God. So it was our first experience. We didn't really have too much expectation, but then when you start doing research and you find out there's a reason why Chanel held their fashion week in Senegal for their first trip to Africa, of which the Pharrell, the recording artist who was also their artistic director or something like that, chose Senegal. Senegal has a high cultural, we call it the creative industries. So entertainment, fashion, hair, art, anything to do with any type of intellectual properties. And then we got there, and what did we see? Leaving the airport, but the brand new 50,000 seat soccer stadium. It's a football stadium to them, but it looked like something that should be at the Olympics or something like that. It's really beautiful, brand new. Right next to that was the basketball arena. Then down the road from that was the free trade zone that we're so engaged with. So I don't know. I can talk on and on and on.
Well, and I appreciate that, with you being so knowledgeable, yet down to earth, and because we had spoken, we had communicated before the Senegal trip, but we actually met face to face in Senegal, and you were so inviting. And so I appreciate your help and guidance. And I know I come across sometimes as like, oh, I'm gonna do this. I just like to make the most of my time. So I thought, okay, well, since I'm going to be there, we're going to be doing that up my own thing and make it come together. And I will say that it came together. Everybody, like you said, was accommodating, and they were helpful. And I felt like it was a great experience, a great investment in my company. And so I'm looking forward to going back. Now I got hooked up with the National Black Chamber of Commerce through my local Chamber of Commerce in Dallas. And so I know if anyone is interested in doing that and being a part of the National Black Chamber of Commerce, they could see if their if their city has a local Chamber of Commerce, Black Chamber of Commerce, because through my affiliation with the Black Chamber of Commerce in Dallas, I was able to find out about the grant opportunity from Famous Amos. And so the National Black Chamber of Commerce was instrumental in my company receiving a $50,000 grant that is going to allow me to do so many things. And I just want to say thank you again so much for the role that you played in that. And so I would say just stepping out there and, just seeing what's out there and not feeling like, oh, I have to be a little business in my little town, in my little section of my neighborhood, because the world is so vast and there's so much that can be done. So I want to end up with the video that I created of our trip to Goree Island. It's about 2 minutes. And then we'll come closing statements from you, or if you want to tell us something that I didn't ask, we can go over that. So let's look at this 2-minute video. Hey, Steffanie here with TCB Drones. We're in Dakar, Senegal. We're on our way to Goree Island. It's one of the ports where slaves were captured and sold and transported to different areas of the world during the transatlantic slave trade. The way it looks today, you would never imagine the significance of this island for countless African people. According to the guide, for every one African forced into captivity, 6 others died. They have on display all the trophies that Senegalese teams have won in sporting events. That's a part of the tourist area as well. People actually still live on Goree Island. As you can see, they've transformed it into a tourist attraction. This replica slave ship is on display in the slave house. This is inside of slave quarters where children were kept. The difference is there's a small window which gave them a little bit of air, but it was small enough that they were unable to escape. This is where children were kept in Goree Island, slave children, or going to be slaves. Already. All right, so I thought I had more to the video than that, but essentially just wanted to put something together. I did take my drone with me, and I was able to get those capture that video, and I did put together another video of our time when we toured the fabric factory. But for some reason I wasn't able to download it. But we went to a fabric factory. We went to the special economic zone where international businesses, which would be American businesses in Senegal, they have a special place for you, a turnkey process whereby they help you to get started. And so, what would be your closing remarks on just our trip and the benefit being a part of the National Black Chamber of Commerce, and what's next? What's the next step in closing the deal for us, this group of business owners who traveled this past few days ago?
First, I have to say, you, wow. I was watching and I saw you. You know how everybody's always doing something with their phone and whatever. Look at the product you produce. It's like, oh my God, what talent and what vision that you had to capture the moment. I mean, and beautiful, a beautiful black woman, a sister, a business owner is rare. She's out there on her own. She didn't, you know, you got there because you put one foot in front of the next and made it happen. You got that grant. You deserved it, but you wouldn't have never got it had you not took the dive, took the chance and got in it. You would have never had some of the meetings you had you not talked to some people on your own and said, so you brought something with you to the table. That's part of the reason why some of these deals got done. Now, that's the other part that is unprecedented about what happened with this group. We wasn't playing. You know, and you were sitting there and you were a witness, and you can give testimony that when they asked me, when the minister of the the National Investment Agency for the country of Senegal, who's under mandate by the president, asked me, what did I hope to achieve? I told him, I hope to leave here with something, with an agreement. I want something in writing. And I know everybody like took a deep breath and said, whoo. And he looked at me and he almost laughed and said, no problem. You know, and what was crazy, and I had to tell you the story, what was crazy, what they tell us? Because we were like, I mean, for me, picking 10 out of 100, I thought I was being kind of conservative. They said, just pick 5 things. And so we picked 5 and said, but we need about 3 more added. So that is really how this is coming together. It was beautiful. It was one of the best trips I've had ever of this nature. You know, we've been with 80 people, we've been with 20 people, we've had all that. And or you can pay $15,000 and go with a government agency or some other entity and come back with nothing. And you're like, well, I could do a cruise by myself. I don't need all that. Having to tell me where I got to go, what time to be up, and where, and all that kind of stuff. So this was different. So where we're going is we're spending time right now writing the recap. We're putting the organizational structure together. We're also going back on the projects and the deals that have happened. So let me give you an example. One of those deals and opportunities that came about was that they have 100,000 affordable houses that need to be built. and they want to know how or what can we do and whatever. So we got to put that whole ecosystem together. It's not just contractors, it's everything. So I mean, we even talking about creating our own version of Home Depot or something for that. So nonetheless, stay tuned. We've got a lot coming. We've got a group going to Kenya next week. Our international committee. We've got invitations right now from Colombia, South America, from Panama. They want us back in Costa Rica. We've got Ghana, South Africa, Johannesburg in particular. Um, Senegal wants us right back. We've got a lot going, and we do have a affiliate chamber in Paris, France, and they're kind of like a pivot because that's all francophone, and that's where you start getting direct connection to the fashion houses and people like Hennessy and Moet and Chandon, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, all them. There's a lot of black folks that work right up underneath that, and a lot of them are from West Africa. So they got the resource, they got the connection. We got like our fellow delegate, Mama Faye. Mama Faye is born and raised in Senegal, but lives in New York City now, and she has a skincare line, and she has experience working for Givenchy and all these big houses in New York and whatnot. But she also has a distribution deal with Walmart, and she's facilitating import and exporting. So we're going to have that program. If you think you'd like to get in the game, have some of the products and different things, you can look us up at nationalbcc.org or contact TCB Drones with Steffanie Rivers. You've got all kinds of resources there. I was thoroughly impressed. Part of the success was because you came and because you kind of got that manageable nomad approach to where, what about this? I want to go here. I want to do that. I'm like, I ain't scared of you. Go ahead, but we want to make sure you're safe, that doesn't nothing happen, but I got your back. And that's kind of like the philosophy and the approach. So, man, hats off, cheers to you. I'd love to take all the videos or whatever your collateral materials you created. I'd like to link them and put them in our reports and reference them and give you credit because it also shows application of your drone. And let me tell you, part of what happened was because you did bring your drone. When we're in that meeting and you set that thing out on the table,
Mm-hmm.
what was the next conversation? They took you all the way from just flying and certifying licenses and teaching and training to what? They want you to manufacture them.
Correct.
Can
Correct.
we make a drone? Can we make drones? Because we don't have everybody. We want to be the capital of Africa or the capital of West Africa, the capital of Francophone. We need to do that. How many jobs could we create with that? So it was magnificent. It was beautiful. Thank you so much for trusting us enough to give us a chance. Thank you for being there. And you at the head of the class now, Madame. I salute you. Thank you.
And thank you for your time and guidance. And I know we're going to work closer together as we start to solidify these contracts and moving forward. And I'm just, I'm reeling from the success that we are baby stepping our way towards in Senegal. So I don't even know how to, I guess the term is scale to duplicate what we've done. So, I'm like, I'm happy with what we've accomplished, and I know there's more out there to accomplish. So, just looking forward to it. And so, I'm going to um, get this interview that we've done, and package it so we can send it out and the link to it to all the members across the country. So they can see it as well and be inspired and know that, like you said, it's up to, they have to take some steps forward towards what they want for their business and to make it happen. So sometimes that's outside of the neighborhood. It amazes me how somebody can, and I guess if you're from a New York City or a Philly or a DC, you think, oh, I've got everything right here. I don't need to go anywhere. But the world is so vast. Why wouldn't you want to out there for you? So I want to implore and invite others to be a part of the Chamber of Commerce, National Black Chamber of Commerce, to see what can happen for you if you build alliances and go forth and see what's out there. So thanks again for your time, and you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk later.
Thank you. God bless. Take
God
care.
bless you.
All right.
So thank you as well for being a part of the conversation. And as President Nabeau just said, that there, if you want to get affiliated with or find out more about the National Black Chamber of Commerce, you can go to nationalbcc.org, or you can reach out to me and to get more information. And if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so the videos you'll be the first to know. Thank you so much, and you have a super day.